Welcome to MMAPlay365. I'm Newsome and I'm here to give you the Base AI recap from our UFC prediction software from last weekend at UFC Vegas 60. And we jump straight into that recap. We start in the value section. The value section is where there are fights that the Base AI prediction software has incorrectly predicted the winner, but said that the betting line was much wider than what it should have been, and that's exactly where we start here. The fight that I'm talking about is Trey Ogden. Now, Trey Ogden, Base AI had predicting to lose the fight, but had him at 45% chance to win. Now, a 45% chance, odds implied, is plus 122. So Base AI was saying that he only should have been a very slight underdog, but actually you could have got Ogden at plus 350. He was a very big underdog. I think Zellhuber actually hit minus 500 at some point. So he was Zellhuber was a very wide, very big favourite in the fight, but Base AI said that, that shouldn't be the case. The fight was going to play out much closer than that. And actually Trey Ogden comfortably won that fight. So it was even more comfortable than what Base AI well, it was actually less close than what Base AI expected, just the opposite way. So that was where the value piece was. Again, if you're betting the value on Base AI and you see that there's a big underdog that Base AI is saying should be much closer to a pick'em, then again, that would have been a cashed betting ticket for you, and that would have been money in the bank. Now we move on to the solid winner section. The first solid winner section was Javid Basharat versus Tony Gravely. Now, the reason why I'm actually putting this in as a solid winner, in fact, I'll go over the numbers first. So Basharat to win, 57%. Odds implied, that's minus 133. Now, Basharat settled and closed at around minus 150. If you'd have bet him at the start, though, you'd have got minus 110, so there was value there with the Base AI. But one of the reasons why I've actually put that in, even though there was no value from what Base AI was saying, or very little value from what Base AI was saying to where the betting lines actually settled and closed, is because I'm actually really happy that Base AI predicted this fight in the way it did, giving Basharat a 57%, because Basharat doesn't have anywhere near the experience Tony Gravely has. Tony Gravely does have very dominant wrestling. He's a very good wrestler. He's knocked a couple of fighters out as well. He's one of those power boxer / wrestler types of fighters. So it would have been very easy for Base AI to get all the information together, spin it in the algorithm, and then predict a Tony Gravely win. But it didn't. It knew where Javid Basharat was great. It knew what Javid Basharat was about in regards to the statistics, the numbers, and the dominance. So I'm actually really happy that Base AI came out with a 57% win likelihood for Javid Basharat. He got it absolutely spot on, and like I said, that's the reason I've dropped it in the solid winners section. And in the next fight in the solid winners section, we've got Damon Jackson versus Pat Sabatini, and this is one where I feel like a lot of people were actually favouring Pat Sabatini because he's the more proven black belt, because he's a fighter that is very hyped right now. He's won every fight in the UFC, or he did win every fight in the UFC. But Base AI actually came out with Jackson at 53%, which odds implied is minus 113. So they're basically saying that Jackson should have been a very, very slight favourite. But you could have got Damon Jackson at plus 175, which is where I personally bet him as well. So on that money line alone, there was a ton of value there. Base AI saying that Jackson should be a slight favourite, but you're getting him at a decent underdog price at plus 175, and it cashed really easily as well, so there's no sweat. But we're going to take this one step further. Damon Jackson to win inside the distance. Now, I personally, if you were betting the method of victory, I personally would have gone with inside the distance, because typically you would go for the submission because Damon Jackson's a submission artist, but Pat Sabatini is a legit black belt in jiu-jitsu, so Damon Jackson also had, in my opinion, a decent striking advantage, and he had some power, which is where it all started as well. So it's one of those fights where you'd have been a little bit unsure whether that it was going to be the knockout or the submission, but inside the distance gives you both, and that's great. Now, inside the distance with Base AI, that's just the knockout plus submission, and that added up to 38%. So Base AI was saying for Damon Jackson to finish the fight, it was at 38%. Odds implied, that's plus 163. You've still got a better line on the money line than you have of the inside the distance. So that's a decent bit of value there as well. But if he'd gone inside the distance, you'd have got plus 500, plus 600. So again, that's just insane value from plus 163 odds implied to actually a 5-1, 6-1 ticket's insane. So a ton of value in that Damon Jackson fight. And then we're moving into the next fight, Rodrigo Nascimento versus Tanner Boser. Now, Nascimento to win was at 53%, so minus 113 again. Base AI was saying he should have been a very slight favourite. Now, again, there was value here. But if you'd have bet Nascimento early, he was around plus 185. There was a ton of value in that. Again, from minus 113, plus 185. But even if you'd have waited till the line closed, he was plus 140. There's still value in that plus money number against the odds implied of minus 113. So again, a solid winner from Base AI, a solid prediction as well. Now in the next solid winner, we're actually going to go really deep into all the percentage predictions in this one. Now, I will say that there's not a lot of value, if any value at all, in any one of these sections. But the reason I'm putting this in as a solid winners section is because the AI just nailed pretty much how the fight played out anyway. So we've got Joe Pyfer versus Alen Amedovski. Now Pyfer to win 76%. This is really high for Base AI. I think the highest Base AI's had around 82. I think I'd have to check. That's just off the top of my head. So this is very close to some of the highest predictions Base AI's given out. Now at 76%, Pyfer to win was at minus 317 odds implied. Now, if you'd actually bet Pyfer at open, you'd have got minus 300. So you'd have got some value there, not a lot, but you'd have got some. However, he did close at around minus 550 when the market just completely steamed him. So, where it settled and where it closed, there wasn't too much value in that 76%. But like I said, it was a confident prediction from Base AI that played out. Now we're jumping into Pyfer to win inside the distance. So again, this is knockout and submission added together. 68% to win inside the distance. Again, I think that's probably one of the highest that we've seen. Minus 213 odds implied. You'd have got minus 250 on the betting line. So again, it's not too far off. It's pretty much where you'd expect it to be. And like I said, Base AI was saying that the line was roughly where it should be as well. So again, not too much value, but something that it absolutely nailed on. Now, Pyfer to win by KO. 54% odds implied. That's minus 117. The bookies had it at minus 150. So again, not too much value there. But again, Base AI is saying that the odds for the knockout are relatively okay and roughly should be where it's currently, or where it was currently set at. But of course, Pyfer won by knockout. So again, that was another good prediction from Base AI. And then finally, Joe Pyfer to win by KO in round one was the highest percentage from the rounds and the method of victory added together. 30% for Pyfer to win by KO in round one. That's plus 233 odds implied. You'd have got plus 140 or plus 175, depending on where you bet. So again, there's no value in that really. But even though the value isn't quite there, it's again another good prediction, and I'm going to run through it all now. So the reason why this is in the solid winner section is because the AI predicted very confidently Pyfer was going to win. They predicted very confidently he was going to finish inside the distance. They predicted that he was going to win by KO, and it also predicted the KO in round one as well. All happened, everything across every level. So again, I'm sure there'd have been some money to be made there. Even if the value wasn't quite there, there was still some tickets to be cashed, some good plus money tickets as well. So again, that's where it fits in with the solid winners section. And the final fight in the solid winners section, and this is one where the AI actually beat me, which again is a regular occurrence, more than I'd like it to be. We've got Gregory Rodrigues versus Chidi and Njokuani. I thought this was a good fight for Chidi and Njokuani. I thought he was going to lay Rodrigues out round one, maybe round two at the latest, but I did think that Rodrigues was going to get absolutely starched. And to be honest with you, he nearly did. That cut that Robocop had across the top just there was absolutely disgusting. If you looked at Dana White's story on Instagram, it was horrific. And it does beg the question why the fight wasn't stopped, but of course it wasn't. And I'll tell you why as well, sorry, just quickly digressing here. It's because of the roll that Gregory Rodrigues has got on the bottom of his forehead going into his nose. He's got like a roll of skin, and I feel without that roll of skin, that cut would have been totally exposed and the fight would have been called. So, maybe the human anatomy of Gregory Rodrigues has saved him there. But Base AI had Rodrigues to win the fight at 53%. Odds implied, that's minus 113. Now, settle and close, you could have got anywhere between plus 100 and plus 110 on Rodrigues. So you're getting plus money for a fight where the AI said that Rodrigues should be a very slight favourite. So there was some value there. But Rodrigues to win inside the distance, 40%. So that submission, knockout added together. Again, Rodrigues is one of these types of fighters. He's got a legit black belt in BJJ. So his submission game's absolutely there. You can see his grappling game is slick. But he's also got knockout power and he's good with his hands, with his boxing and his knees and his kicks as well. So this is one of those fights where if you're going to bet a method of victory for Gregory Rodrigues, you would just choose inside the distance rather than trying to pick between a KO and a submission. But inside the distance, 40%. Now, odds implied is plus 150. So 40% plus 150, but you could have got plus 175 on Gregory Rodrigues to win inside the distance. So there's value there as well. Value on the money line, value on inside the distance. And then this is where it gets even better. If you did go with that route of choosing the method of victory, Gregory Rodrigues by KO was the highest percentage. So that was higher than the submission. 36%, which odds implied is plus 178. You could have got plus 390 on Gregory Rodrigues. So there's a ton of value there. That's the gem of the Base AI recap. The Gregory Rodrigues by KO would have paid a massive ticket, massive value from what Base AI was saying it should have been as well. So again, that was a really solid winner. And finally, we are actually going to end with the bad losses section here as well, because there is one fight where me personally, I thought that it was definitely off from a prediction perspective, and I'll explain now. And that fight was Mariya Agapova versus Gillian Robertson. Now, Agapova to win was 61%, which odds implied minus 156. She was plus 125 on the bookies odds. So somebody seeing that from Base AI would think there's a lot of value there and might have played Agapova. And to be honest with you, she did actually win that first round in the Gillian Robertson fight, and arguably won it 10-8 as well. But the problem that came was at the end of that round, and it's what I said in the breakdown as well. Agapova has got a history of falling short against decent grapplers, and Gillian Robertson was probably the best grappler that she's fought in the UFC. So the fact that Base AI was saying that Agapova should have been a favourite in this fight, I think is not right. I think that she should have been, if you are arguing for argument's sake, maybe even a pick'em, because Agapova does have the striking advantage, a massive striking advantage. Gillian Robertson has the grappling advantage, a massive grappling advantage. And the thing is with Gillian Robertson fights, she normally, unless it is a Macy Barber or a fighter that is very, very, very difficult to take down, which Agapova showed she was in round one, but again, she can fade and a gas tank can drop. I'm knowing that from obviously the tape that I've done and the previous stylistic matchups where the algorithms are looking at statistics and how the fighter matches up with numbers, which is great. And I think long term, the AI is doing a phenomenal job and is going to continue to get better. But there is always going to be that odd fight, like I always say, where it's not quite got it and the person with the tape study does have it. And I think that's a good example of one of these fights here, because like I said, Gillian Robertson did end up exposing the holes that Agapova has within a ground game. And like I said, it wasn't, I'm putting this in a bad losses section, it wasn't an absolute terrible loss, because like I said, Agapova won probably 10-8 in that round one, but again, Gillian Robertson came out the better fighter. I just feel that 61%, it was probably too much from Base AI. It should have been much closer to a very even fight, or maybe even slightly favoured Gillian Robertson. But yeah, that's the reason. I've maybe harshly put that in the bad losses section because of what happened in that round one, but I've done what I've done, and that's the Base AI recap for UFC Vegas 60. So again, we're on a week break. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to give the recap for UFC Vegas 61, which should be interesting. There's some interesting fights on there as well. So interested to see where Base AI is predicting those fights. But again, that'll come in a couple of weeks. Thanks for listening. I'm Newsome. We'll see you again next time.